Ibis Weather. This is Sarah. This is the update for Wednesday, August 20th, regarding Hurricane Erin and all things tropical related. So, before we get into the main topic, of course, of Erin, which has been basically taking up all our time for the past week, I do want to touch on the two other areas of interest that have been continuously being marked by the National Hurricane Center. The middle one, which is not Invest 99L, that Invest 99L would be over here. This one you can see has started to shrink. So if you watched the video from last night and heard me previously, typically you'll start seeing the areas shrink down when they look like they are going to basically peter out and not become anything. And that looks like this could very well be the case here right now. For the middle one, located near the Leeward Islands, uh, several hundred miles east of them, still having a broad area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. They do say environmental conditions appear conductive for gradual development, and we could see a tropical depression. It could be trying to get more organized. That's possible. For 48 hours, they give it a chance to develop in the next 48 hours, 10% and 60% for the next 7 days. Then for Invest 99L, they mentioned satellite-derived surface wind data from earlier today revealed that there's a concentrated area of showers and thunderstorms, so it's starting to get convection. That is several hundred miles southwest of Cabo Verde Islands, but it still does not have a closed surface circulation, so that's why it's not been declared anything. Environmental conditions appear marginally favorable for additional development for the next 48 hours or so, as it continues to move west southwest. And they said a short-lived tropical depression could form, but by the end of the week, it will be in less favorable conditions. But they still giving it 40% chance for the next 48 hours and 7 days. Let's go ahead and look at what the computer models are showing for it. So this is, I believe, the global euro. Not really doing much of anything with it, which is a good thing. Definitely, again, taking it closer to South America, um, and not really developing much to anything, which would be a blessing for many. And then Invest 99L for GFS, kind of the same. We do see at least one trying to curve it more up. Could it happen? Sure. Does that seem likely at this point? That's kind of hard to say. I mean, by that point it gets closer to there, it will probably be close to dying off anyhow. Of course, if it continues moving it over ocean, it could try to regenerate something that is possible, but right now that doesn't seem to be the likely case. Okay, let's talk about Hurricane Erin. Good news is she has continued to trek more north and is starting to look like in her satellite presentation that she will be, if she has not started already, but will start be making her northeast movement later on. She has been picking up some forward speed, which is what we've been expecting and anticipating. Tropical storm warnings are still in place for uh, from Hatteras, North Carolina, up to a certain point in Virginia. Of course, there's still a storm surge watch or warning, I should say, for parts of OBX, the Outer Banks of North Carolina as well. You guys will continue to see worsening conditions tonight into tomorrow as she continues to make her way well east of the coast. You might see some outer rain bands. According to this current map, it does seem like the worst of her outer bands and squalls will likely stay offshore, which is a good news. Bermuda, it looks like you are truly being very fortunate and blessed over here that you are probably less likely to even see anything than North Carolina is, as your distance between you and the storm is much further apart. Does that mean that both of you guys couldn't see possible squalls kind of breaking free and spinning out from the bands? That's possible. I believe there was some stuff on the east coast of Florida today that did that. So it is possible, but you guys should be again okay. Again, right now you're only in a tropical storm watch Bermuda. You're not in a warning, but North Carolina and Virginia are in a warning currently. Again, you can see how much she has grown. Definitely, the hurricane force winds have grown, as well as the tropical storm force winds have grown. They haven't grown too much. They've grown just marginally compared to the hurricane force winds, but definitely nonetheless, they have grown. from the 5 p.m. update, she's currently moving north at 14 miles per hour. She is still Category 2, a wind of 110 miles per hour. At the moment, she'll start turning more northeast. They say she could regain possible strength back to a Cat 3. That's what they're thinking the ceiling is right now for her. She is such a large storm, continuously pooling and upwelling of the cooler waters. The likelihood of her getting higher than that, she is very unlikely. And if she does reach Category 3 again, probably for a very short period of time, and you know, she'll have trouble doing it because of the sheer size that she is. She's just a very large storm, um, as well. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. So it does look like New England and Mid-Atlantic, Atlantic Canada. You guys should be safe. Of course, you guys will be dealing with rough surf, rip currents. So follow any of the information that your cities and state governments are issuing you guys on that, but it doesn't look like you guys are going to be dealing with storm surge or overwash, which is a good thing. Definitely better news now compared to what we were saying a few days ago for you guys. Um, but that should start clearing up by the weekend, and obviously by this weekend she'll be definitely entering much colder waters and petering herself out by probably early next week, if not earlier. So that is good news. So her journey is, I want to say, almost over from the looks of it. Not quite yet, until she truly dissipates. We're not going to stop having our eye on her. Um, but it seems like we're now just getting really the kind of the worst of what she's breeding, and even then, that is so much better than what some people were concerned, and we were a little bit, watching, um, as she continues to make her trek to the northern Atlantic Ocean. Again, as I mentioned, I like to show you guys kind of the history of her winds, and again, it kind of really shows you um, how much her wind field has grown, especially the hurricane force winds. So apparently, she's right over here. She's kind of parallel to Georgia and South Carolina today. So you can definitely see the winds have grown, and they've grown quite a bit. We'll touch on in a moment as how far out they've gone out as well. This is just a very interesting thing to look at, kind of remember her by. She's, I believe, the National Hurricane Center says she's like in the 78th percentile of how large of a hurricane is for the Atlantic Basin. So typically, if you guys don't know, typhoons in the Pacific are much larger. They're typically a more physically big storm. That's not always the case with the Atlantic. I mean, if you look at Hurricane Andrew, who was quite small, concentrated, angry storm, but like you had like the Katrina and Irma, and now of course we have Erin, and of course, Helene from last year as well, and Milton. Very large storms. Okay, and then let's go ahead and look at potential storm surge flood map. So again, right now it looks like they're just talking about the Outer Banks of North Carolina. You guys will probably start seeing the worst of it starting actually when this past hour, because that's when your high tide is. Which means, so you're gonna already have risen waters and then the storm surge on top of that. We'll get into some of the photographs and videos that we have seen about that today as well. But this is definitely the reason why, one of the reasons why you guys have the evacuation orders for Highway 12 on the Outer Banks. Now we're going to look over here at the floater page of our satellite image. So if you aren't sure, this is where Florida is, the Florida East Coast, Georgia's coast, and then South Carolina's southern coast. So you can definitely see how big she is. South Carolina, you're definitely getting some of her clouds and a little bit of rain showers. I will say Georgia pretty much fared out from that. You might have seen a little bit. And of course, Florida's got a little bit. Definitely South Carolina is getting a little bit more touch of it, which we were talking about was possibility with her, tracking more west, and just with how large she is. So that's definitely the case. But you guys are certainly not getting the worst of it. North Carolina and Virginia seems to be getting the concentrated effort from her on it. Earlier today, she did start having a little bit of her eye clearing out, which you can kind of see a little bit in the yellow center over here, but it's kind of clouded back over, and you can kind of see she's still being a little bit sheared out to the southwest quadrant, which we saw earlier today as well. So that was the area, the shear was coming in yesterday onto her northeast or northwest quadrant. And now it's shifted, obviously, due to her moving north to the southwest quadrant, which probably also is helping keeping her intensity on the lower end right now, which is a good thing. In terms of the discussion that the National Hurricane Center posted at 5 o'clock, I do like to mention, talking again about what a large storm she is. So her hurricane winds actually extend out now to 105 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds have extended outwards to 265 miles. And then if you remember, that was previously about 230. So they've a little more than doubled in how far those winds have gone out. I'm good mentioning that some of the boys out in the Atlantic have reported sustained winds of 58 miles and a wind gust of 67 out there. And then also, I wanted to mention, pull up. So, across, as you probably have heard before, we talk about Katrina in the past, like this. Her actual width, if you will, of how big the physical storm is, literally from one side to the other side across about 829 miles. And then also from one side to the other, about 510 miles. So that's the part of the reason why the storm surge is a concern, and just again showing how wide she is. And even though the eye is not going over any land, which we are so grateful and happy for, doesn't mean that you guys aren't getting impacts. And all it takes is one storm to make an impact, to make it a bad season for you guys. And while you're not getting the worst of her, you're still not getting the best, unfortunately, either. So this definitely will be a storm that probably will go down into the track record and probably will end up seeing the name being retired. I would think, just again for the historic um, part of what she has come and done. Now, as I mentioned earlier today, if you guys follow me on Facebook or on YouTube on the post, my community post, you will have noticed that we were talking about how she has recovered, definitely compared to what she looked like yesterday, and how some strengthening was possible. It doesn't appear she's done that just yet. They're still seeing the possibilities there, and the reason why for that, as you can see, the very warm surface temperatures out here on the southeast coast. We're talking about 85 degrees. Water, which is more than prime for strengthening of our tropical system in a hurricane. It's definitely possible, but because, like I've said, how big of a storm she is, she's upwelling the cooler waters up to the surface, and just how big she is, it does take a lot more effort and more than just sea surface temperatures for the storm to strengthen and get better as well. So that's part of the reason why we haven't seen her actually do that, which is a good thing. Again, I think everyone can kind of, you know, she's not over yet. We not can't all collectively do a sigh of relief until she has dissipated, and we can talk about her in a past sense. But right now, I think we can all say, the fact that she's staying out to water is open ocean is a good thing. Again, I can't call her a fish storm just based on the fact that she had cost some people's lives, including out there in the Cabo Verde Islands, and of course, I'm sure you guys have been hearing about the reports of people being caught out into the rip currents that she is bringing up and down the East Coast, which will continue until probably early next week. It should get better for the lower part. So, like the south, you'll start feeling better before the northern part will. Um, of course, there's been some people that are trying to save. Of course, probably some people who they couldn't. And then, of course, if anyone who has decided to stay out there on the Outer Banks, you guys, and end up risking their lives as well, that's possible. We may hear more lives being lost that way. It's certainly possible, unfortunately. Of course, stress too can cause it. So, can't really say she's a fish storm because definitely people have lost their lives from her, but it's still a better situation than what we were talking about possibly happening with Erin. And let's talk a little bit about the damage that she has been causing. So, again, the Outer Banks, you guys are going to start really feeling it tonight into tomorrow as she parallels your coast before she makes that northeast hook because of how big she is. And these are some photos that's further proof, again, of why the evacuation order was issued by your city and state. So this is an image of their Highway 20, which is on the Outer Banks. It's looking north of Hatteras Village. And you can definitely see they did build the dunes or a dune up on the road, as the road is pretty much literally right by the coast to try to stop some of the surge. But of course, there's only so much you can do when you're talking about up to, 20-foot waves, which is possible. I mean, especially with high tide, this stuff is very possible that could happen. So you can definitely see some of the water is already on the roads. This is another photo of it again, a little bit similar to the one I shared yesterday, where they were already starting to get some. Again, you can definitely see where the water has gone everywhere. Some of these buildings are definitely going to have water in them. Places might be destroyed from it. This is the reason why they want people to evacuate. So if anyone gets stranded or stuck there for whatever reason who didn't evacuate, they may not be able to come and rescue you. If you know anyone, please feel free to share these. I will actually share this on my Facebook page, which I will have a link below if you guys want to follow and see that. And then also, I'll probably put on the community tab here on YouTube as well. And then another photo, which this one really kind of shows you, gives you it's not an aerial view, it's more of like on the ground looking out, and you can definitely see the water there that is covering the entire street in front of them. And this is just the beginning. Like, you guys are not, she's not parallel to you guys yet. Um, so you guys are unfortunately going to be seeing more water, and that water is probably going to get quite a bit higher between now and then. So again, this is exactly why they did issue it. And again, another photo of more from the ground view, and you can see they had a 45-mile-per-hour sign lets you know this is indeed a road, even though it looks like it's not because you can't see the pavement underneath ocean. And then here is some more. This is from Dare County that they have shared on their Facebook page as well. Again, you can see more water. You can definitely see paramedics, ambulance driving away. You can see some houses that will probably are built on stilts, but it's still possible they could definitely be getting the impacts of water in some of their floors, depending on how high the water comes in. Again, possibly up to, uh, you know, 20 foot are possible in probably some isolated spots. Um, and then over here, you can see again more water. Again, it's a little bit more spotty over here, but definitely enough to cause a car to splash it up. This is a good aerial view, so you can definitely see the ocean over here and the water coming in, pouring through. So these houses and buildings are all getting water possibly in them, just based off of how high the water is going to come in. It's going to continue to come in, and this is Highway 12, which again, you can definitely see why. Um, it is not safe to stay out there on the Outer Banks right now. And then another view from the ground as well on uh, the water, on the ocean out on there. And then I know everybody's going to talk and want to talk about, okay, we were now in the beginning of, in the early start of the peak of hurricane season. So what does that mean for the next 2 weeks? Obviously, we can't completely rule out anything and everything. It is a possibility. Things can form closer to home. Things can form closer out there to Cabo Verde Island. It's all possible. But it looks like for the week of August 27th through September 2nd, they're thinking the greatest chance of something forming will be over there by Cabo Verde Islands, and then that heads west for the week of September 3rd through the 9th. And then also, more interestingly, you'll see a pocket of area in the southwest Gulf and then over there by the Yucatan on down, which is an interesting thing because if you guys remember, this is technically the areas that we got Milton and Helene formed from last year. So that's a little bit concerning. Again, as I always say, and most people say, the Gulf has notoriously very hot, warm water. They are not a good thing for a storm to form in there or go into. It's definitely jet fuel for them. Of course, it takes more, like I said, than just sea surface temperatures to do this, but it's still very much a concerning thing to think about, to think that something could form that close to land. Of course, we could head more west, but they do want to turn north. So anywhere I would say from the Texas coast all the way through Florida, and of course a little bit into Georgia and the Carolinas as they can, if they go the path that Debbie and Helene has taken in other storms like Michael, and have gone through the Big Bend of Florida, that's not good either. So we'll see what the next 2 weeks bring in terms of tropical hazards. Again, right now we do have two areas of interest, and it doesn't seem like that they're really thinking much is going to form out of the two, which is a good thing. I don't think anyone will complain about that. But of course, we are in the season now. It's the season for hurricanes, and I'm sure we'll be tracking a lot more. Of course, I'll continue to post updates and information as it comes out about Helene, or not Helene, Erin, and anything else that might pop up too. please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to follow me here on Facebook for the latest updates. And if you guys have any suggestions for other videos that you guys want to see when we're not actively tracking any said particular current storms out there, I'd love to know what you guys would like to hear in terms of weather. Um, I have a couple ideas that are floating around in my head about what we might be able to create and publish, but I also want to know what you guys want to see as well. And again, so to remind everyone, Erin is currently going to parallel the Carolinas and Virginia and Bermuda, which is a good thing. You guys should not have really any squalls or rain or that much wind, like sustained tropical storm force winds. Yes, something could kind of break off and come you guys' way. That's true, but your main worry is obviously the surf and overwash for the Carolinas and storm surge as she makes her way north and northeast from you guys tonight and into tomorrow. So, again, please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Facebook, and we'll continue to see what this hurricane season brings. I'll talk to you guys later on. Thank you.